Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving into the absolute technical genius, the spectacular career, and honestly, the baffling contradictions of the 20th century's first true modern pop idol, Frank Sinatra. We're going to unpack the source material to figure out how a skinny kid from Hoboken, New Jersey didn't just sing the soundtrack of the American century, but actually helped define its whole concept of masculinity. Let's get right into it.
Picture this. It's 1948. Sammy Davis Jr. tells this incredible story about watching Frank Sinatra slowly walking down Broadway, and literally not a single soul is paying attention to him. I mean, nobody gave a damn. And this is the exact same guy who, just a few years prior, had tied up traffic all over Times Square. Stardom is fickle, right? But Sinatra's fall from grace was just staggering. How do you go from stopping traffic to basically being a ghost on Broadway? And more importantly, how do you climb back to the top?
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the first pop superstar, then get into his dark ages, followed by the Capitol Records comeback. After that, we'll break down the art of the voice, how he redefined American masculinity, and finally wrap up with power, politics, and paradox. Part 1. The first pop superstar, creating the blueprint.
Way before the Swifties or Beatlemania, Frank Sinatra literally wrote the blueprint for modern pop idolatry. During World War II, he absolutely exploded onto the scene. He became this vulnerable, highly emotional surrogate for a nation that was at war, completely captivating young women whose boyfriends and brothers were overseas fighting. And to really grasp the scale of this fame, think about the number 30,000. In 1944, an estimated 30,000 kids completely paralyzed Midtown Manhattan during the Columbus Day riot. They swarmed the Paramount Theater just hoping to catch a glimpse of him. It took hundreds of cops just to handle the pandemonium. Honestly, nobody had ever seen anything like it. This was ground zero for modern mass hysteria over a solo pop artist.
Section 2. Entering the Dark Ages, the Fall from Grace.
Like we heard from Sammy Davis Jr., the higher you fly, the harder you crash. Between 1947 and 1953, Sinatra's career went into a terrifying tailspin. He actually called this period the Dark Ages, and there were really four major dominoes that fell here. First, his carefully crafted, wholesome family man image, totally shattered by a very public, chaotic affair with Hollywood star Ava Gardner. Second, the public was still holding on to a lot of resentment over his medical deferment from World War II. People were definitely questioning how he managed to avoid the draft. Third, things got really dark with rumors swirling after he was spotted in Havana in 1947 with heavy-hitting mafia figures like Lucky Luciano. Add in some Red Scare accusations that he was a communist sympathizer and his reputation was in tatters. And finally, he was just making some genuinely awful creative choices in both his music and his movies. To give you an idea of how bad it got, Columbia Records executive Mitch Miller actually forced Sinatra to record a novelty track called Mama Will Bark. The goal was to somehow win back the youth market. Just think about that for a second. The guy known around the globe as The Voice was literally reduced to barking like a dog on a record next to a curvaceous comedian named Dagmar. It was humiliating. His film contract was canceled. His record label dropped him. Before he even hit 40, he was widely considered a total has-been.
Section 3. The Capitol Records comeback, a legend reborn.
Against all odds, Sinatra engineered one of the most spectacular redemptions in entertainment history. It started with his fierce determination to play the victimized soldier, Private Maggio, in the 1953 film From Here to Eternity, a role that actually won him an Oscar. But the real magic, the musical comeback, was cemented at Capitol Studio A in Hollywood. This wasn't just a recording room, it was the crucible for the sound of an entire era. Imagine this massive 2,700 square foot space. Using brand new magnetic tape technology, Sinatra recorded completely live alongside these massive orchestras. Working with genius arrangers like Nelson Riddle, the sound they captured in that specific room was warm, rich, and just historically unprecedented.
Section 4. The art of the voice, technical genius.
To really understand this comeback, we have to zoom in on his granular, almost obsessive mastery of the craft. Sinatra wasn't just a guy who happened to have a nice set of pipes. He was a pure musical technician. He mastered his phrasing using a bel canto style, this continuous stream of breath. And he actually studied instrumentalists to perfect this. He watched Tommy Dorsey play the trombone to figure out how to sneak breaths without breaking a musical phrase. He studied violinist Joshua Heifetz to see how he moved his bow continuously. Sinatra took those techniques and applied them to his own vocal cords.
This created seamless, uninterrupted phrasing that let him dramatize lyrics like a master storyteller. He wasn't just singing at you. It felt like he was singing his thoughts directly into your mind.
Before him, the standard approach for a big band singer was just a belt over the orchestra. It was all about hitting the audience with sheer volume. But Sinatra? He realized the new Neumann U47 microphone was an instrument all on its own. He would physically manipulate it, pulling it away, drawing it close. This let him sing in these incredibly intimate whispers and sighs. He basically forced the microphone to capture the deepest vulnerabilities of his voice, without the orchestra ever drowning him out.
Then he took this micro-technical focus and scaled it up into a massive cultural shift. By jumping on the brand new 12-inch long-playing record format, which could hold 8 songs aside instead of just one, Sinatra basically birthed the modern concept album. He curated these collections of songs unified by a single, usually melancholic, emotional theme. Albums like In the Wee Small Hours weren't just random playlists, they were sustained, cinematic moods of masculine heartbreak. He essentially taught the post-war American male exactly how it felt to be lonely.
Section 5. Redefining American Masculinity. The Hollywood Outsider. Sinatra was reshaping music, sure, but he was also completely reshaping American men on screen. Take his role as Frankie Machine in the 1955 film The Man with the Golden Arm. Playing a gritty, heroin-addicted poker dealer in Chicago directly challenged the motion picture production code. It completely shattered the sanitized, pristine myth of the whole post-war American dream. Back in the 1950s, the mainstream masculine ideal, the stuff pushed by magazines like Playboy, was all about Ivy League refinement, hi-fi sets, and comfortable middle-class suburban life. Sinatra's reality on screen was the exact opposite. He played working-class hustlers, deeply flawed gigolos, and world-weary war veterans. He brought this mature, really painful emotional vulnerability that was totally different from the teenage angst of actors like James Dean. Sinatra showed a darker, down-and-dirty side of America that the mainstream really would have preferred to just ignore.
Finally, Section 6. Power, Politics, and Paradox. The American Caesar.
Sinatra eventually reached a level of cultural dominance where he was essentially an American Caesar, but his lifelong, intense pursuit of power was deeply rooted in feeling like a perennial outsider. He was the son of Italian immigrants, constantly seeking legitimacy from the establishment. You can actually track this through his dramatic political evolution. Back in 1945, he's starring in The House I Live In, an idealistic short film preaching New Deal tolerance. Fast forward to 1961, and he's at the absolute peak of his political influence, organizing JFK's inaugural gala. But then just 2 years later, in 1963, thanks to his alleged mob ties and liabilities, he's basically banished from Kennedy's Camelot. Feeling entirely rejected by the Democratic establishment and fighting to get his revoked Nevada gaming license back, he shifts his allegiance to the right. By 1980, he's raising $4 million for Republican Ronald Reagan's campaign. The politics definitely shifted, but the end goal, respect, and absolute proximity to power.
And that relentless quest was fueled by a ton of intense inner turmoil. Sinatra once described himself as an 18-carat manic depressive. He lived a life of extreme, sometimes violent contradictions. This was a man capable of terrifying physical rage, yet he would quietly, anonymously pay the hospital bills of struggling former colleagues like Bela Lugosi. He was an artist who achieved unparalleled, staggering wealth, but he remained forever a restless, defensive outsider who felt like he never truly belonged.
As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with this question. Did Frank Sinatra merely reflect the turbulent, shifting values of the American century? Or did his unparalleled voice, his unapologetic swagger, and his deep human paradoxes actually help create it? Was he just singing the times, or was he writing the cultural script? Thank you so much for joining me to explore the incredible source material behind the myth, the voice, and the legend of Frank Sinatra. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.